Right, ladies?
Yes. Beautiful day in the
Live
neighborhood.
episode of Race Matters. And tonight we are talking about why racism persists, power, privilege, economics, fear, and many other things. There just weren't enough things on the ad to put everything. So we're just going to get into some reasons why we believe racism persists, especially in America. But before we do that, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, click the notification bell so you know when we're on and you won't have to think about it. And please write some comments and questions in the feed so we can highlight your questions, and we also too can possibly answer them. We love when you engage with us because it makes the conversation that much more exciting, engaging, and dynamic. Because it's not just about what we think; it's about what you think as well. And we're all in this together. This platform has been created. All right, Rosie.
There I
This platform has been created. Okay, something has happened here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this is a live feed, so please just bear with us. Rosie and Mariana have gotten kicked off. I don't know why, but they'll let themselves back in when they realize it. I'm sure they'll probably realize it shortly. But again, this platform was created because we wanted to make a safe place to have the hard conversation. And talking about race, it's not really that easy because we get so it's such a sensitive topic, and it can bring up so much emotion. And when we're passionate about things, that emotion rises up, and then a lot of times our conversation will just dissolve into an argument. But we don't have to argue. We can talk about race in love, even with differing opinions. So that's why we started, one of the reasons why we started this platform, to talk about race in a way where we can do it in love. So it's a safe place to have the hard conversation. And my name is Sharon Thomas, and I am the host, as well as executive producer and owner of Full Life Communications, where the shows on this network are my brainchild, which is from the brainchild of God, downloaded to me. And so I'm starting these shows to be an extension of what it is I do as a professional. I'm a licensed professional counselor doing therapy, and I'm in private practice. And so these shows help different populations, and also to get us to learn how to talk about different issues, and again, talk about them in love, so we don't wind up arguing, where we can leave the conversation and leave one another's presence, and we can grow. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to grow from the conversation about race on this show, regardless if we have differing opinions. So I think Mariana and Rosie are back. We're going to see what's going on with them this time. Hey, ladies, I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you're back.
Disappeared.
Yeah. Do you think it was when you would put it on Facebook that it might have kicked us off by accident or something?
No, I do the same thing every time. As soon as I go live, it just goes live to both automatically. I don't do anything with that. That's set in the beginning. Gotcha. So, listen, Rosie, you know what happened this week, right? With technology, right? The enemy doesn't want the message to go forth. And so, there's tech issues, but we are not defeated, right? We are not defeated.
Ever. Never.
So I shared with the audience a little bit about myself and my ethnic background, primarily African American. I mean, there's some other things in there, but primarily African American. And so, Rosie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Rosie, my name is Rosalina Anderson. I met Sharon through the church that we go to. I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, born and raised. As I say all the time on the show, I live in Camp Salkin, which is Pennsauken, borderline of Camden, so I consider it Camp Salkin. A lot of and I love the invitation to be on here because my experience comes from the lived experience, which Mariana has graciously said. Your lived experience is just as much as somebody having degrees. So,
Absolutely.
I come from the aspect of my experiences with racial matters in my life and the things that I've seen and I've gone through and how I coped. So I'm going to be bringing that portion to light with the young ladies. So at this point, I'm going to throw it over to our young lady, Miss Mariana.
Thank you, Rosie. And yes, you have so much to offer. So thank you. Plus,
yes,
so it's really fun to have these moments with you too. Everyone else missed the fun we had with music and all of that just earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Mariana, tell the audience something about
Yes.
yourself.
So I was born and raised in Moldova, Eastern Europe. Came to the States at the age of 15 when I was in high school. Then it was during my high school years that I took a psychology class and really liked it. Took some more in college, changed my degree to psychology, and then just kind of like kept going. And I met Sharon several years later in one of the diversity classes we took together. And, by that point, it was really important to me to work through a lot of my own internalized, as well as like my ignorance, and continue to learn about the things I didn't know. So when Sharon asked me to join, I, really felt honored.
Well, I'm so glad that you accepted. You have a lot to offer as well.
Yes. Yes, she does.
And Stephanie, who we miss. Stephanie is one of our
Yes.
co-hosts as well, but she's traveling the world right now. So she will join us when she gets back and is finished what she's doing. But we miss you, Stephanie. We miss your voice and all.
Yes,
you
we do.
And can't wait till you get back. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, subscribe to the channel, share the video, put comments and questions in the feed so we can engage in this conversation together, and like the video. So tonight, race matters. Why does racism persist? And some reasons are about power, privilege, economics, and fear. So, ladies, let's start talking about power. What does power have to do with racism? Now, we can, I think generally, unless people, kind of get into the weeds of studying things and watching, different things to educate themselves. But even generally speaking, if you just kind of look overall in America specifically, how power plays a role in racism, whenever you have a group of people who are considered, the premier group, let's just say, and then you have the marginalized group, who are subjugated and who are considered less than. So therefore, that other group has power over the marginalized group, right? So with white supremacy, with white people being the superior group, so it's said, we know that that is not true. And then so the inferior groups are people of color. So therefore, the supposed superior group has some level of power over the marginalized groups of color in the realm of economics, right? And we can just look, there's tons of example, look across the country, even in our prison system, with the economics, with the, basically, the prison labor, and then, back to slavery, and, and everything in between, back to slavery when there was no pay, and Black people built the country, built the White House, built, everything loosely, but a lot of things that existed, Black people, slave labor built. And so therefore the economy was built on the backs of slave labor. And so therefore everything that they made, didn't have to be paid for as far as the labor.
Right.
And so that's the economy of the country. How great would it be if I didn't have to pay my staff for doing the job to run my company?
Can you imagine?
To keep all the profits. Like, wouldn't that be wonderful? No, it wouldn't. It would not be wonderful.
Right.
Because those people who are working for me, they deserve to be paid. Just because it was my vision, my brainchild, no man is an island. I need people to help implement that, to execute the vision.
Yeah.
So they are just as important as the vision, as me, because we need each other.
Yeah, I mean, that would be easy, right? An easy way to get money and power,
but that takes a certain, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. That takes a certain mindset, in my mind, to subjugate a group of people because you think you are so superior that you have a right to enslave, marginalize, subjugate, discriminate, all these other words against. That takes a certain mindset and a certain mental health that I don't think has really ever been talked about, but I want to talk about it tonight. But we're going to stick with power right now and privilege. So Mariana, you were saying something. So what do you have to say?
Yeah. S well, in relationship to power.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so like I'm thinking even a little bit in terms of so when we think of like little kids from a young age, right? Kids want to be seen, at least from the most part, right? Some of the more shy kids might not want that attention, but when it comes from their parents, right? Every human being wants to be noticed, wants to feel special, right? Wants to
Mm-hmm.
think they're important to their parents and so on. And so, that's a somewhat human desire. And there's a lot of like natural human desires and a lot of natural human desires gone mad, right? As one of my favorite counselor, as Dan Allender used to, likes to say it. So, like for example, within Christianity, we have this belief that, right, the fall tainted so many things in this life, right? That we have natural things that might have been not necessarily good or bad, could have been neutral, some good or bad, and you take a desire to be seen and loved, and then you corrupt that. You turn it into like, well, to be seen and loved, I have to like have more privileges and power over other people and to be superior.
Right.
And sometimes people go through any means possible to achieve that, right? Regardless if it's um, getting on other people, harming others, you name it, right? If some
Right.
people want to get, to that place of maintaining or obtaining, right, and then maintaining power, they'll do it through many means, and they will
Yeah.
use anything to justify, from
Mhm.
the Bible to, dehumanizing others, right? Calling them less human, whatever means
Mhm.
they need to in order to obtain whatever they want.
And see, part of that is shown in the history of America, on how to subjugate people so that you can be, like Sharon said, have rule over them, have power over them, financially, emotionally, mentally. And there are books out there. I mean, even if you looked into it, there's a book that's called How to Make a Negro Christian. So for those who think that it had no part of Christianity, I mean, why would you have a book out that says that? How to manage your slaves. So these are all the books, and I'm not trying to lie. I mean, I'm looking at the book titles right now. And these were different things. Or the Willie Lynch letter, and the making of a slave. So all of these were things that were uh, written on how to manage slaves and how to keep people enslaved, and the different things that you did to make sure that you were superior over them, that you ruled over them. Or there are still states in this country, in this great state, great United States of America, that still have laws that are still in Congress that deals with slavery, and deals with how to treat people of color as opposed to Caucasian people and things like that. So we still got laws that are in effect. I mean, and this is the way that you control people. They wrote these books because the best way to control people is to change their mindset about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You can change their mindset about who they are and what they bring to the table. Then you make them inferior to you in
Mm-hmm.
their own mindsets, and then they think they are inferior. The first heart surgeon was a black man. It's in the movie with the blue babies. It's called, what's it called? Thing. I'll remember the title, but I was letting my aunt look at it recently, and it's just something. It's called Something the Lord Made, because what happened is, as the black doctor was first creating a blue dog, because in order to know how to treat a blue baby, you first had to know what was wrong with the different chambers of the heart, or the ventricles and the different things like that fed the heart. And what happened is, the doctor had his black assistant create a blue dog. And when he was able to create a blue dog, and then the dog's lips turned blue, then now they know why the blue babies can't breathe well. And now they can figure out how to treat that or how to do surgery on it. And even with that, he's the one that, and matter of fact, when the doctor did the first surgery on the first baby, he would not do it without that assistant there because he needed him to talk him through it. And on the show, it said one of the doctors that was watching, he said, he couldn't have been able to do that if that N word wasn't there. He said the N word. He said he wouldn't have been able to do that if that N wasn't there. So a lot of the accomplishments here in the United States, the stop sign, the lights, the flashing lights and stuff like that. A lot of different things were created by Black people, but the credit was given to white people that they worked with because they worked for them. They didn't have the money, and they probably were working for a company, and they probably said, "This is how you do it." Oh, I found out how to do this, and then they take the credit.
Yeah. So with that, you're saying like power gives privileges, right? Benefits.
Yes. Yes. And finances too. And Black people couldn't get any kind of money. So you didn't have the finances, so all of that fed into why the country, like the history of this country, was so white. And now that the truth is coming out, it's frightening for people, the horrific idea of rewriting history. It's horrific to Caucasian people because, and I'm not saying those who, the everyday white person, I'm talking about those who run the system, to say that we intentionally wrote the history to write you all out, that has to be dealt with. And that's an uncomfortable place to go.
Just the truth of the matter, basically. People don't want the truth to be told. And why is that? What's wrong with the truth? What's going to happen if the truth of American history is actually told?
The reason America is going down so fast because the Bible says that my people are dying for lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge here in the United States is destroying it. Not being honest, not telling the truth, not bringing everything into account and letting people know who America really is. If it's going to, the one thing that rubs me wrong all the time is when I hear people talk about the institution of this country, and they said, that's not what the forefathers intended. What did the forefathers intend? Because not one of them fathers were fathers from African countries.
Exactly.
So your forefathers had no good intentions for our people.
Exactly.
You had an idea, you had a Bible, you weaponized it for an ideology of a white country, white country, and your forefathers was going to institute it that way because if your forefathers did not have bad intentions, then they wouldn't have made Black people slaves, they wouldn't have brought them over here, they wouldn't have killed off the indigenous people. Your forefathers wanted a white nation.
Exactly. Well, to build all these systems for white people, but on the backs,
of everybody else,
with the labor, especially of Black people, but also everybody else, right? Because same thing to an extent applies to when undocumented immigrants from the southern border come here, and when we need them for the very cheap labor, it's fine, but the moment they want more freedoms, and more privileges, then it's a problem, right?
Right. And it's so crazy the indignation that we see with what's going on in Russia and how they're saying, at one point they're upset because Putin's doing so much killing, but another point you have certain, and I say racist people because that's the only way you can think like that, saying, well, they were part of that. Those countries were part of the USSR or something like that, and they belong to Russia, and it's like, okay, so then what you're saying is like certain parts, like Texas and certain different parts, Mexicans should come and take back, and you shouldn't have any problem with it because that was their land before you took it. Is that what you're saying?
Also, Alaska used to belong to Russia.
Yeah. I mean, bye-bye, Palin. Go home. Go home.
There's a place, and I can't remember where it is. It's in Africa. And you ladies chime in if you remember, or anybody in the audience. Even, over the past few years, they've been fighting to take their land back
Take it
because
back.
it was stolen from them by whites.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, well, you can't take our land, but you stole it from us in the first place.
Yeah,
So
it
now
wasn't yours.
there's a legal process going on for them to get their land back, but the others are up in arms who stole it originally, right? I mean,
the
you can't make
hubris.
this stuff up.
The hubris of somebody somebody come and steal my house, and then I come home and then they telling me this is my house and you ain't coming in here. I mean, the hubris.
That's squatters' rights. Like, there's a law about that. I don't even understand why squatters' rights. Like, who made that up?
Listen, you know what? I'm not going to get racial.
Change the locks, and now they have.
Well, squatters' rights was written because Columbus and them came and squatted.
I understand. That's what I'm saying.
That's squatters' rights. I mean,
it's been since the inception of America, and I don't even want to say the inception of America because the indigenous people were here. You just put a label on it.
Yeah, right? And that's why it amazes me when they talk about terrorism. This country was instituted through terrorist attacks.
Absolutely.
You came, murdered, killed, raped, did everything you could to clean this land that you were on for you to take over. This country was a hostile takeover.
And so that's how everyone learned, right? To be evil, to be hostile, to rape, murder, pillage, and you wonder why these things still exist today. And you get mad. Well, why? I can't believe it. But this is how the country was founded. So why are you so surprised?
Why?
But when other people of color do it, it's different. It's a crime now, or it's always been a crime.
And that's part of the privilege, right? That when the same behaviors are done by one group of people, right? It's called, we're creating a great country, right? With Judeo-Christian values. When the same behavior, is done, by someone from Middle East, right? It's terrorism. When it's done by people of color here, it's a crime, right? And the language that's being used for the same behaviors, depending on, people groups, and the way the people with the most power have the privilege of labeling that in a way that still puts them in a positive light.
Yep, absolutely.
And see, that's why it's so detrimental, and yet that's where the power and privilege comes in, because right now you have people that are getting upset because too many, and I'm going to put them all in the pot. It's too many gay people, it's too many transgendered people, too many black people, too many people of color getting into the mix. And because they are rising up, that means we are under attack. And that's why the viciousness of racism is rising so quickly, because now white people are starting to feel marginalized. You're starting to feel the foot on your neck. And the problem is, it's your own foot on your neck, because we don't care. We want everybody to work together.
No foot on their neck.
Yeah, it's not us.
Other people, the population is growing with people of color, but nobody's doing anything to take anything away from white people.
Your uncomfortability is your problem.
A fair share, that's all. We're not trying to take anything away from you, but can we have some equity? Can we have some equality? Can we all have some? Can we all have some privileges?
A little bit. We ain't asking for much. Just give us something.
Right. Well, we all have the same privileges. Put it that way. We all do have some privileges. I have privileges. Have privilege even as a black female, being lower on the totem pole with that. But as a Christian, I have more privilege than a Muslim in this country, right? So we all say that lightly.
Well, you only have more privilege because you're a black Christian. But if the Muslim wasn't there, you'd have less privilege because you're a black Christian.
Right, but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying in this country, it's a melting pot.
Yeah, it's a melting pot.
Those who are not Christian are lower on the totem pole because Christianity is the prevailing religion in the United States. So if you take away that, you just take away religion, then I'm sure I probably have some other privilege as an educated female. So if I have more education than someone, then I have that privilege. So if you think about it, we all have some level of privilege, but then there's the privilege of color, right? That the other things is like, if I educate myself, Okay. I can't do anything about my color. You can't do
Right.
anything about your color. No, no one can do anything about that.
Mhm.
We can do something about how much we educate ourselves, what religion we choose. Color you can't choose. So we
If
can
I
only
drove
go off of something that is genetic, something that is basic to
right,
our humanity. And again, it's man-made because there's only the human race. There is no color race.
there is
Man-made
none.
to discriminate,
Right,
for economic power and privilege reasons.
right. And if I drove up in a Rolls Royce, the question shouldn't be, am I an artist? Am I an athlete? Or am I a drug dealer? It could just be that I'm a businesswoman and I'm making a lot of money, and that's how it is. If a white person drives up in a nice vehicle, they're gonna say, "Oh man, I wonder what they do for a living. I'd like to check that out." But if one of us, it's like it's
Mhm.
not. Oh, I want. It's like, what do they do for a living? They're either a actress or
Drug
actress, singer.
dealer,
Uh, uh,
don't forget the criminal.
I said that earlier. I said you're either a athlete, you're an actor or actress, or you're a drug dealer. You know,
Right.
you
And
see
the
my
issue is too,
complexion.
why did you stop me in the first place?
Yeah,
Not even after you stopped me and asked me all those ridiculous questions. Why did you stop me in the first place?
yeah.
Because I'm black, driving a nice car.
I'm speeding. So what about all them cars that came past you before I did?
Mhm.
Cause I ain't catching up to them. So there's no way that I'm going faster than them if they're driving in front of me and I ain't nowhere catching up to them. So they had to drive past you first. But then you just saw my face in the car. Just didn't fit the profile. This is a 2000 Pontiac. This is a Pontiac Bonneville, brand new. It was 2001. It's a 2000. Uh, oh, and I got asked all
That
them
sounds like
questions.
a personal experience, Rosie.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what happened to me. I was asked, "Is this your car?" Yeah. What year is it? It's a 2000. Are you sure? Yes, sir. What is it? It's a Bonneville. Are you sure? I said, "You have
Hmm.
the registration and insurance in your hand. Check it." And I limited myself to that, Mariana, because I knew if I got any wilder, I would have been face down and probably two people in the car with me. We probably would have been all on it. He probably would have called for backup because we were coming from down south somewhere, I think.
And that's an example of power
Mhm.
Power,
because of the power of the
An abuse
bag.
of power.
Yep.
abuse.
Mm-hmm. Right. And because I have a badge, I feel as though, because it's not like it's justified, it's not like it's written down anywhere except for maybe in a secret code book, you know what I mean, that you have this power over black people, so people of color, and you can stop them at will for doing
And because
nothing.
if we have any white listeners, I would be curious, right, to hear how many of you have had that experience where you were stopped by a cop and they were asking you questions about, is this your car, right? What kind is it? Are you sure?
What the
Right.
year was,
What do
you
you?
know,
How many of us have been asked these questions while stopped by?
Right.
and when he
Because
walked away,
typically,
the
isn't
first,
it, let me see your driver's license and
mm-mm,
your owner's card and registration? Isn't that what's typically asked?
yep.
So where are all these questions coming from?
And then when he walked away, I looked at the two people in the car. Where I said, "We're being profiled right now,"
Hmm.
you know. And I mean, what do? You just keep it moving, and then I got a ticket, and he said you can come back on such and such. That's the court date. I told him, "Ain't no way I'm coming back because I probably won't make it out of here the next time. I probably won't make it out. I'll just pay the ticket and keep it moving. I won't be back to here for a while. So by the time they stop me again, that ticket hopefully should be long gone.
Hmm.
But
Did you fight the ticket?
huh?
Did you fight the ticket?
I wasn't even going back there to fight nothing. I just paid it and kept it moving,
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's
because
just like, you know what? I'll give up the $85 or
yeah,
whatever
because
it is because it's worth the
the
fight.
bottom line, if I went back down there would have been a reason
Hmm.
because he's a white older gentleman, and whatever he said you did, you did. What's the point in driving all the way back down there to do what I would have had to do anyway? You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And then hopefully come back home because you never know if I go to court, who else is going to stop me and if it will turn out differently. No, just pay
Right.
it and keep it moving. It's not even worth your life, because the panic, the fear that you get when those things happen, they live with you. They live with you, and you just. Why
Yeah.
should I put myself through that again? Why even take the risk
I
again?
hear you.
I'm hearing that and remember like last week asking that question, like, you know, and like in terms of like even afterwards being able to like have the name and report. And actually one of the videos you had sent us, Rosie, the men addressed that as well, that like, yeah, for a lot of people of color, you don't have the privilege, right,
You
of
don't.
of
Mhm.
standing up for yourself, because
Like I said,
It could make
being
it worse.
in this country, in my opinion, being black, according to the justice system, is you're guilty until proven innocent. That's just how I look at it. I just feel that that's how it is for us, and it's been like that forever. You get arrested, you're going to jail. If what they said isn't what you did, they're going to find something, some reason, and you're still going to end up in jail. Yeah, I mean, there's some kind of penalty. It takes a lot for you to be able to get out of something once they get you, because they're right, you're wrong.
You're going to try to prove that you're wrong in some kind of way,
Hmm.
unfortunately, in many
Yeah.
cases.
And
So,
I have to work too hard to prove that I'm innocent. I mean, it's like I didn't do
right.
anything wrong.
mm,
Let me tell you, I had a judge find me one time because I had two cars on my property that I think they weren't registered or something. So I remember telling my brother, pull it up into the back, at the back of the driveway, because I don't want it on the street. You don't have it registered. So I would prefer it to be up all out of the street, so nothing, nobody will hit it or nothing like that. And I got a letter to go to court. So I went there. Now, by the time I went to court, I remedied the problem. I said, they still want to take me to court. I said, Bus, you got to get it off out of my driveway now, because they're still saying it's in the driveway and it's still not registered, and they're going to fine me. So I get there. The prosecutor meets with me in the room, because every time you go to court, you got to meet with the prosecutor first. And I talked to him. I said, yeah. I said, listen, I want to apologize. I didn't realize I couldn't have it in the driveway. I had my brother put it in the driveway because I didn't want an unregistered car in the front of my house on the street. I said, but now that I know that it can't even be in my driveway, my brother has already taken care of it. He removed the car. He said, okay, great, Miss Anderson. Well, I'll let the judge know that it's been remedied, and he'll probably just charge you the court costs, and we'll be done. So great. I said, okay, good. We get in there, and it was a white young lady in front of the judge. She was cussing the judge out, telling he didn't know what the blank he was doing. I mean, she was so belligerent, nasty, and ignorant. And he would say, well, Miss such and such, well, this is it. Well, unfortunately, this is why you were stopped. And he was talking to her like that, right? And all the stuff I was like, oh, thank God I'm going after her, because guess what? But now I know, because I'm going to be respectful, I ain't got to worry about nothing. So she goes storming out of there, and I don't know what happened with her. So I get in front of the judge. The prosecutor says, well, Your Honor, Miss Anderson is taking care of the problem. She didn't realize that the vehicle couldn't be in her driveway. So, but it's been remedied. The car is no longer on her property, so she's okay. Well, guess what? I don't care. I'm making an example out of her.
wow.
I hadn't even opened my mouth.
Wow.
And I looked at the prosecutor, and the prosecutor looked at me. And
another abuse of power right there.
And he charged me almost $300.
Wow.
That is another abuse of power.
Abuse of power. And she's here disrespecting you, cussing you out. I haven't even opened my mouth. Your courtroom prosecutor already said, we have handled it, Your Honor. Everything is taken care of. So we figured, we could drop the charge. And if you drop the charges of the car. Oh, no, she ain't getting away with it like that.
And, that could have been, and I'm not justifying anything that the judge he was, well, he can make whatever decision he wants, but I don't think that was a fair decision. But because of the young lady before you doing what she did, being profane and all of that, and however he did or did not handle it, some of his ire for her, probably you being the next person, right? That displaced anger. I'm angry at work and I don't say anything because I'm not trying to get fired. But what do? I go home and take it out on the people, right? Who are have less power. Right. So now you're the next person. You're getting the wrath that I didn't give her. I'm making you an example. Like,
Yeah.
what did I do? I did the right thing, right?
And that's how I was
but
feeling. I was like, I haven't even opened my mouth. The only one talking is the prosecutor, and you're letting me have it.
But so my question would be, what if there was like a white guy that went after that lady, right? Would he have displaced his anger on this next guy,
Right.
or waited and like, so because even when it comes to displaced anger, right, people take it home, to their family, usually because their children have less power, so you take them
Right.
who's more vulnerable.
And their wife or their husband, because they're always going to be there.
Right.
Right.
And people who have like who are less likely to like call you out and hold you accountable, right, and all of that. So
and even the sad part of living in a society that this thrives in is that now, were I white, I might have argued back, and I might have even tried to do something to file a case against the judge. But being a person of color, you just swallow it. You don't go after them because you think the ramifications of me going after that judge is going to be worse than if I just leave it alone. And a lot of Caucasian people don't understand what it takes for people of color to have to swallow your emotions and stuff, because the way we want to respond is no doubt we're either going to be in jail or dead. But they don't understand what it takes for us to try to mitigate everything and try to work things out, or just keep quiet. I think y'all talked about that before, of how you just keep quiet, and you just you just don't say anything. And I forget how y'all put it.
I think I was also talking about, even in the context of police, and when I was asking about, is it possible to like take their name and file a report? And then both of you, but
that ain't gonna happen.
Sharon, you mentioned that like in that moment I'm afraid for my life too, and I want, like, that's a priority. I want to make it home alive.
Exactly. And that could be off-putting to the officer, even though I have every right to do that. Oh, so now you want my badge number and you want my name. They could, take that as a sign of aggression or whatever, just because they're in the power position and they feel as though they can do what they want to do with that power and that privilege. And again, this is a generalization. This is not all.
Right. Generalization.
It qualifies for. But ladies, let's talk about fear. Let's talk about fear and mental health, because fear is a part of mental health. How that plays a part in, or how you think it might play a part in racism. Mariana, let me hear what you think about that first.
Yeah. Well, I think there's different levels of fears, right? And different kinds of fears when it comes to the issue of race, right? There's the fear of losing the power, right? The fear of being held accountable,
right,
for your actions and having consequences for responding, in a way that discriminates other groups of people. And I think fear has also been used by people in power to control the masses, because that's how they maintain the power.
Yes.
Because if I, continue to instill the fear of people of color, and for the rest of you to see them as a potential threat, then I can continue being reelected and continue to get votes, right? And then my platform, which on the surface runs on abortion and like some other religious things, underneath all of that, there's a lot of like benefits giving and taxes cuts for the richest of this country, right? So, but in order to be able to achieve those votes, I need to get people who might already have some fear there to activate their fear in order to maintain the power.
Right. And to create the fear, like, in
Exactly.
slavery, everything, with us and bring black people over here, it starts with them, whipping, the slave in front of the other slaves to inflict
Mhm.
fear. So if you
Oh
even
my goodness.
attempt to run away, or if
Hmm.
you attempt to do something disobedient, this is what you're going to get.
Hmm.
Right, so it's that insidious
Mhm.
thinking, which I believe speaks to their mental health. And this is something that we really haven't talked about, as far as racism and mental health. And there's nothing in the Bible of mental health, the DSM-5. There's nothing about racism in there, and I believe it should be put in there, as far as the trauma, but as well as those who perpetrate those racist and discriminatory practices.
Hmm.
Right? There's something wrong with that type of thinking, that you think that you are so superior that you can marginalize groups of people and enslave them, back then. And now, with the school to prison pipeline, and the free labor in prison, etc. And there's just a myriad of other ways. You all
Hmm.
know, we don't have to repeat them,
Yeah.
right? And so that speaks to me, to your mental health.
Mhm.
Why is it that you think that you're superior, and that you can inflict fear and pain and power and privilege, and even kill, right? Even murder. There's something wrong with your thinking.
Hmm.
Something wrong with your heart too, because out
Yeah.
of the heart, abundance, we do act. Right? The Bible
Right.
even talks about that. What's in our heart, it comes out in our actions and in our words.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? And there's something wrong there, in the mental health realm.
Yeah.
That's my thought as a mental health professional.
Yeah. Right. So like when we think even in terms of like different groups, right? So I think in some ways, historically we've seen that when there's a culture they're not too familiar with, sometimes that will raise some levels of like anxiety, maybe uncomfortable because you don't know, right? Uh,
Right.
However, in this country, Black people have been part of the country for so long that by this point we know, right,
Hmm. Yeah.
who who you are, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the fear is not so much the unknown, but because some in power have tried to use that to continue this fear, and even through uh, all the exclusion of Black people from white spaces, right? That
Hmm.
also led to like more fear, because it prevented from people getting to know each other, to realize like, hold on a minute, no, like, where does this
Right.
come from? Because if they got to experience friendships with people of color and other deeper
Hmm.
connection, that that's a lie and it's not truth. But to go
Right.
back to that, when I like, I can't even remember who used this definition, but like with mental health and flexibility, right? So we might
Hmm.
have certain biases, beliefs, automatic thoughts that we have based on our personality, life experience,
Hmm.
you name it. But life requires having some flexibility when new information comes in, right? So if
Hmm.
I meet a few people and they don't meet the what I've been told, I have to readjust my thinking.
Right.
I have to be flexible with how I see.
Hmm.
And if I can be flexible in some of these areas, I think it's a sign of some troubles in terms of mental health, and not being able to like integrate this new knowledge that I have with my
Hmm.
previous knowledge. Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it's the fear of the known for the Black people. It's the fear of the known, what we know, what would happen to us, how
Mhm.
we know they see us, and how we know they will treat us. And I mean, a lot of people of color won't do certain things because they just oh, it's never going to work for us. They're never. Yeah, the typical saying of the white man is holding us down. That's because there's a fear of really pushing back, because from history what happens to Black people when they push and try to get their points across, and that's where the fear of cops, come into play. A lot of, and I think, and you ladies can correct me on this, because you are actually the you have degrees. I don't want to say what y'all's titles are. You know who you are, and
Hmm.
the people can hear it from your mouth. But you have degrees. But that's where so many aggressions come from in the Black community, because you won't let us be. You won't let us. When I say you won't let us be, you won't let us be professional. You won't let us have finances. You won't even let us do the criminal acts, which is selling drugs and stuff, because no matter what we do to try and make money, you come after us. So you won't love. I don't know if any of you all, and this is how I liken it to, I don't know if any of you all like Marvel and like Superman and all of them and stuff like that. But there's a part where, is that Marvel or is that DC? I think it's DC. But there's a part where they bring Superman back to life with this, they call it a box, some kind of box. And when he comes back, now this is the mentality I'm just saying about the black mentality. Superman says to Batman when he sees him, because his aggression was toward Batman, even though he was fighting all of them when he first woke up. But he said these words, and this is what I say to myself. This is how black people feel. He said, you won't let me live and you won't let me die. And then he said something to Batman. He said, do you bleed? But see, his aggression was, I couldn't do good things because you were after me. I couldn't do bad things. You were after me. You won't let me live. I lived. You were against me. I died and you brought me back. What, to torture me some more? And that's how it is in the black communities. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm never good enough for this country. I will never be good enough for this country because you won't let me live. You won't allow me to participate. And if I did participate, you would steal what I know, and then you would claim it for your own. And then it'll go down in history that you all did this creation when it was on my back.
Don't let our light shine too much, because now, Black Wall Street, they're doing too much with that money. They're recognizing their what they can accomplish wealth wise. So we got to tear it down.
Coming too powerful.
And started it from nothing, because the 40 acres and a mule that you promised us never happened, right? But because we are intelligent people, we started from the ground up and built ourselves up. And now you destroy it. You're right, Rose. We can't live, nor can we die. Because if we shine too much with our talents, you try to take it away, or claim it for yourself, or try to destroy us in some way. Unless we're athletes, unless we're singers, unless we're entertaining.
And even in all that, you got to shut up and do what you do.
Exactly. But you can only do that. Don't have an opinion about anything else, even though you're a citizen and you're allowed to have a political opinion. You're allowed to have a religious opinion. You're allowed to have any opinion you want because you're a human being. But just shut up and dribble, because that's what I'm paying you for. I don't want to hear your opinions about anything, because actually I don't even like you. But I want to be entertained because you have that talent. So I want to use you for your talent and discard you for everything else.
And soon as you start speaking up, then we find ways to destroy you.
Exactly. And try to cancel you. Right? But God.
But God. I thank God for Jesus.
Exactly. He is on our side. And not that he's not on the other side, but he's on the side of justice.
He's on the side of man, because he loves man, and he wants you all to live in harmony, in peace, in love, in patience, in kindness, and all the good attributes that came from Jesus.
But he's not on the side of injustice.
But he will never be on that side.
Absolutely.
And the Bible is full of verses on oppression, and God is always on the side of the oppressed.
Absolutely. There's many examples in the word, and that's, and a lot of times the people who we're talking about, they call themselves Christians. This is why it's like, do you read the word? Because this is not how Jesus represented himself. How can you call yourself a Christian and hate?
But that's what you said the last time, Sharon. You mentioned it the last time, the weaponizing of the word of God, the weaponizing of the Bible. You use it to get your point across,
Yes, but even for themselves, when they are reading it, right? If you say you're a Christian, that means love, right? Jesus operated out of love, first and foremost. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how are we demonstrating love in our politics? How are we demonstrating in love for people who don't agree with us or have a different religion than us? Jesus didn't care about that.
So it basically, they did the same thing with the word of God that they did with black people in this country. They
Mhm.
took what he had and they used it for their benefit and then took ownership of it.
They
This is
perverted
our
God's
religion.
word.
This is our religion. You're just a savage. You're just this. You're beneath us. And this religion only belongs to us because Jesus was white like us.
Well,
You need to read your Bible.
right. And I'm scared to stand next to you when you pervert God's word and say that it says something that
Woo!
it doesn't say, and you weaponize it to discriminate against a group of people. I don't want to stand next to you because
Listen, Lord,
I
if
don't
you're
want
going to
to
open
come
up the
down.
ground, let me take a couple steps to the left before you open the ground and swallow
Exactly.
them
But
up.
God is not pleased with that.
Mm-mm.
Perverting his word, you know what I mean, for your gain, your economic, your political, your whatever gain. He is not pleased with that.
Mhm.
That is not of God, and saying it is and using his word. That is so, I mean, ooh. I
And
mean,
that's
when you
why in
think
a lot
about
of and that's why in a lot of areas there's so much distaste for the word of God, because the weaponization of it has been so tainted that now everybody feels so they
because
can't
they don't know
receive,
the word for themselves. They're just
and they
believing
can't
what other people
receive
say.
they can't receive the crucifixion as something that Jesus did for to buy back their sin. So all they know is I'm doing this and that, and according to their religion, I can't get right. It's just been so twisted.
And that's why you got to read the
You
word for
got to,
yourself.
you
So
got to.
you know when somebody is misquoting God's words, like that's not what his
Mhm,
word says. You know what I mean? Because man will have his own interpretation. You got to read the word for
mhm.
yourself so you know.
And even if you don't know it,
Love
the
and
best
justice.
words, the best words that can come out of your mouth is, where is it? Show it to me.
Mhm.
If you don't know, okay, well, the Bible says that. Okay, where is it at? Show it to me, because they'll
Mhm.
never be able to find it.
Mm.
So, well, ladies, our time is up. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us this evening, joining me this evening. Thank you for those who are watching live, and thank you for those who will watch on the replay. This information is always relevant no matter when you watch it, morning, noon, or night. And if you watch on the replay and you want to still leave a comment or question, please do so. We love to still engage with you even after the show. So we will have another live episode of Race Matters next Thursday at 7 p.m. We are on every Thursday at 7 p.m. live for Race Matters. And I'm going to just let you know a tad bit, just so you'll tune in. We have a special guest next week, but I'm not going to tell you who. I'm going to wait till the last minute so you can tune in. But we're going to talk about social justice activism, racial justice activism. And we have a guest next week who is in the trenches
Yes, I can't wait.
dealing with that.
Exciting.
Absolutely. So
Can't
join us
wait.
next week for a live episode of Race Matters. We love you all. We thank you for watching. We appreciate you engaging with us, because this is a safe place to have the hard conversation.
Yes.
Love you. God bless you. Have a God week. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. Be blessed.